Hello everybody! So I've been getting a lot of questions asking me to make a tutorial for how I make my yarn tails. I figured, well, why not make one? So I've been filming this video over the course of this week. Obviously not consecutively. These tails take a very long time to make. This tail that I made for this video took me about 8 hours to make in total, though I was working a bit slower than I normally do. I usually make tails over the course of a few days to pace myself, but the quickest tail that I've ever made, I made in one day because I worked on it for the whole day. So let's get into the tutorial.
So for yarn tails, you're obviously going to need yarn. I'm using 2 colors because I'm making a raccoon tail. You're also going to need a brush that has metal bristles so that it gets through the yarn easily. And lastly, you're going to need scissors so that you can cut your yarn and maybe even shape the tail after you're done. This is the yarn I use. It's the Loops and Threads brand, and it is acrylic yarn. Next, you want to measure out a stencil piece of yarn that you can use to measure out your fur tufts. That way, each tuft will be the same size, and you don't have to worry about inconsistency. Make sure that you're happy with the length when you fold it, but when you brush it, it'll be a little bit longer. Next, you want to cut out a long piece of yarn to tie your fur tufts onto. You're actually going to need 3 of these so you can braid them together. Before you braid the 3 pieces of yarn, you'll need to tie off the top using a small piece of yarn. You should also cut another small piece of yarn for the end of the braid once you're done braiding it. Once you're done braiding, you can either cut the extra yarn off at the bottom or you can brush it out. Next, you need to cut 4 small pieces of yarn to tie your yarn tufts together with. And then you need 4 small bundles of yarn that are presented here that I cut using the stencil we made earlier. Once you've folded your yarn, tie it twice at the top, then flip it over and tie it again. Then flip it over one final time, but you don't need to tie it this time. This is so that the yarn stays together when brushing it out. Make sure to cut the loops of the folded yarn. Once you have a tuft ready, don't cut the top part off because this is what we will use to tie it on to the base skeleton of the tail. Once you have all 4 tufts brushed out, tie them to the end of the tail. This is easier than tying them to the top, but it still can be tricky, so if you need to hold it between your mouth or your legs, that is totally fine, and there is no judgment here. After tying on each tuft, cut the extra yarn. This is what the tail looks like after the first layer of yarn tufts. For the next row, I would place it 1/4 to 1/2 inch away from the first row. The distance between tufts affects the fluffiness and thickness of the tail. As seen in a thinner tail here, the tufts are further away from each other. You can use a photo for reference too. This was my progress after the first day was over, and I'd spent 3 hours already. Once your tail is all done, you can tie on a clip to the top. You can use a lobster clip, or you can use a carabiner. Both work pretty much the same. However, I don't have any at the current moment. After that, you're all done.
Alrighty, so this is the finished tail. As you can see, it is a raccoon tail. You can make yours in any pattern you like with however many colors you like. As I said in the beginning of this video, this took me 8 hours to make, and I worked on it for about 4 days. I'm pretty happy with how this came out, and I hope that this tutorial helped you. I don't have clips to tie on, but this is why I leave a little bit of extra string at the top, so I can just tie it on. But I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys, and if it was, let me know how you did, and maybe let me know what type of tail you made. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye bye!